Gentlemen, welcome back to the DFS Army Fantasy Football Show, and we are recording on August 1st, 2024. We have kinda real football happening tonight with the Hall of Fame game. I got my boys. I got Brandon Adam, who's been with me all offseason, and we have a prodigal son. He's back, the wayward son himself, Mike Dickinson. What the hell is going on, Michael?
Wayward is a great way to describe it. I've been way out and now I'm way back. I'm in the process of moving. We are moving in a couple weeks, but I set up a studio where I can broadcast. I can do some shows until we move, and then once we move, I'll be a permanent fixture. So if you're excited, I'm back. Great. If not a goddamn fucking thing I can do about it.
Too bad. Too bad. Listen, no more excuses, Mike, to not do these shows. And here's the thing, right? So we're obviously in a group chat, the three of us, and we got our boy Flex Matt in there as well. And Mike talks so much shit. Like, at least we come on the airwave and we'll talk shit to the people. But Mike likes to talk shit, look all smart, and then I can't record today. So we're here, boys, to talk about fantasy football draft strategy. We've been doing this a long time. So I like to say we're going to give the people a bit of a masterclass in how we're approaching drafts this year. And I think, the reason that we get along so well and that we've been doing this for so many years now together as a team is because we all have very different perspectives on how we approach both our drafts, player takes. Like, I find that Mike and I are typically a little bit more conservative. When something happens, we're like, okay, let's wait and see a little bit. Whereas Brandon's like, fuck it, I'm in, baby. Let's go. Like Devon Achane, fuck it, I'm in, baby. He picked up 5 pounds. Let's lock it in, baby. So we're going to navigate that around. Just got to pay a few bills here. So, of course, we hail from DFSArmy.com. DFSArmy.com. Go check it out on YouTube. We got the Fantasy Football Show, which is on this channel. We got the main channel where Geek is now sending out, talking about his top players, his draft strategies, and that's it. The sweet, beautiful game that is DFS. He's starting to talk about strategy, and the latest video is actually the way too early look at the DraftKings lineups for week 1. So if that is something that excites you, go check it out on the other channel. And of course, guess what? It's draft season. The draft version 1 of the draft kit should be live on the website now. Brandon has already eviscerated me on some of my rankings. That's cool. That's what we're here to talk about today. And man, let's just get into it because we got a lot to talk about.
He's my best friend. He's my pal. He's my homeboy, my rotten soldier. He's my sweet cheese, my good time boy.
All right, boys. As much as I want to do want to talk about draft strategy, some major news kind of dropped right before we went live here today, and that was that Geno Smith is indefinitely going to miss the rest of the preseason. Now, that is mildly concerning because football is going to be played in just over a month from now. And this is a very, very important time. And guess what? We got a resident Seattle Seahawks fan. Brandon, you've been actually recording over with some new friends of ours at the Undroppables, and you're doing a Seattle Seahawks show. So I'm going to throw it to you. How panicked are you? How confident are you in Sam Howell in the event that he does have to start the season? And what the hell does this mean for our JSN breakout season ideas?
Put everything on hold for JSN, I think. That doesn't match the skill set of Sam Howell. I think he's going to be more hyper-focused on a DK, easier to throw to, larger frame, bigger frame to miss. So I think that's going to simplify the offense a little bit. But we'll see. Camp reports are really bad about Sam Howell so far this year. He's been throwing a lot of interceptions. He's not been accurate at all. Everybody's been praising Geno Smith, so this really is a bad deal for Seattle. This is going to be a tough deal, so go trade for Russell Wilson right now from the Steelers. Right now, 6th-round pick. Go get Russ. Let Justin Fields be the Steelers starter. Let it be. That's what they need to do. I love
that. Mike, do you have a take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping that Sam Howell would be a thing. I thought when he traded there that he and Geno would be competitive, but Brandon kind of threw water on that with the reports that were coming out of OTAs and out of camp. So, I mean, I think the only saving grace is the OC that they picked up from Washington. That guy is a scheme genius, and he will be able to scheme to Hal's strengths. I'm hoping that he realizes how much better.
That's right, Mike. I had to meet you, Mike, just because you were getting a lot of feedback there. So, yeah, we'll work on that while you get your internet correct. But yeah, go ahead. Are you back? Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. So sorry about that. Yeah. So I was hoping that Sam Howell would. I was thinking that there was a shot Sam Howell was going to beat out Gino, but Brandon said everything
Possible now.
coming out of Seattle. It's possible now. Yeah. I think the thing that we need to take into consideration is how good schematically the OC they got there is. DeBoer wanted to take him to Alabama with him, but he wanted to stay in the area. His family wanted him to stay in the area. So he went to McDonald brought him to Seattle. So I think that guy is savvy enough and is slick enough to possibly scheme it up to make whoever the QB is successful. This could be like a Canales situation where you're like, all right, you're giving me Gino, great, let's fucking ride. You're giving me Baker Mayfield, great, let's ride. I'm hoping that he's a good enough coach to scheme it all up. And I also hope that he realizes that JSN is a much better receiver than Tyler Lockett at this point in their careers. Tyler Lockett's been great. And I think from a real football standpoint, I love Tyler Lockett, but like it's JSN's time. The guy has a phenomenal route tree. He gets open, he catches the ball. He's a dynamic receiver. So focus on DK, focus on JSN, run the football, and let's see some great West games.
The winner, I think, is going to be Ken. I think there's going to be more opportunities for him, especially early in the season for Sam, getting to be in that system. But you're right, though. I mean, what we talked about on the pod on the Uncovered was the fact that Brian Grubb's offense is all about showing the same exact personnel, but having different calls with the same formations, and they're able to kind of like roll through a lot of plays from the same kind of formation and be able to pick apart defenses once they get an answer. But not good, dude. Not good at all. I'm kind of hurt right now, so this kind of sucks.
Yeah, I mean, at least we kind of know what the Seahawks are, right? Like they at least, I guess maybe not, but they've historically been a run first team. Obviously, they've got new coaching staff there, so we could see a bit of a different show in town. But we do know that they were depending on Gino, so if he doesn't practice, that's definitely going to be a hit, at least to start the season. Let's get into a little draft talk here, boys, because round one, I just updated or released my latest rankings, and for the most part with round one, it's pretty chalky. I mean, it's a lot of wide receivers. Christian McCaffrey's going 101. You've got Bijan and Breece Hall smack dab in the middle of round one, and then you've got Jahmyr Gibbs right at the end. One player that's pretty controversial right now is Puka Nacua going at the end of round one. Now, I don't want to belabor the situation because our most recent show, Brandon and I broke down rounds 1 to 3 and our draft strategy for rounds 1 to 3. But Mike, your fresh perspective, when both players were on the field, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, both of them performed pretty similarly. Similar target share, similar production, similar efficiencies, but Kupp's going almost 30 picks behind Puka Nacua. Is Puka a guy that we're willing to take that stab on, that leap of faith on, knowing that he's going to be able to do it again this year? Or is it too rich for your blood and you're looking elsewhere?
I think that you take that risk if you think Cooper Kupp is not healthy. Then that's really that if you take Puka Nacua as your wide receiver one, you're saying, and I said this last year that I thought Cooper Kupp I thought his wide receiver one days were behind him, and I still think they are, but I think they're both comfortably, when they're both on the field, they're both comfortably wide receiver twos. That said, if they're both going to be on the field, give me Kupp at where he's going. But if you take Puka and you look at what Puka did when Kupp wasn't on the field, he was otherworldly. Like, he was very touchdown dependent, but he was a monster. Like in those first 4 games, he put up almost 24 PPR points per game. That's ridiculous. And then when Kupp came back, he dropped down to about 15.5. So if Kupp's going to be healthy, which it sounds like he is, it sounds like he's had a productive offseason, sounds like he's had a healthy offseason, and everything coming out of camp has been positive so far. And as we're recording this, we're about a week, 10 days into camp. Everything's been good so far. As it sits right now, I don't like Nacua at his value.
Me neither, brother.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I have him baked in one spot behind his ADP, and that's honestly just more so a blind faith in the market. I don't love it. Like, I've got him right there with Jahmyr Gibbs, and I would much rather just get sick with Jahmyr Gibbs. right? Go like Jahmyr Gibbs, Drake London on that turn. And like we were just talking about it before the show went live, Brandon. Like Drake London in Atlanta, they got 2 good quarterbacks. It seems like in Atlanta right now, both of them are performing at a super high level. And it's going to be a big problem, man. It's going to be a big problem for that coaching staff, like a good problem, but also a bad problem, because if Kirk isn't like constantly looking behind his shoulder to be pulled by Penix, like that's a good thing to have, because it means Kirk's playing otherworldly. But if he throws a couple interceptions, like the drumbeat's going to be going pretty hard. And like Drake London season, everything is lining up for him to go absolutely mind-melting nuclear this season. And I'm worried I don't have him high enough.
Seattle should trade for Kirk Cousins.
That
would be so perfect. Dang, that's a good one. I'm in on that.
A 2?
A 2? Yeah. I would do that to save the season. I would do that. That's a good call. And take that contract, so you got somebody signed up. You're good to go for a while. You're out of Geno's contract after this year. That makes a lot of sense. And then it unlocks Penix and our favorite quarterback, Mike and I, our third best quarterback. That's our guy, man. And I'm excited for him. Everything I've seen coming out of camp is just high. Drake London and Kyle Pitts are high pointing above everybody with Penix when he's throwing the ball up to Penix from Penix. And it's just sick watching it happen. It's happening over and over again with Kirk and Penix. So no matter what, the pass catchers are insured beyond belief to actually succeed in Atlanta, no matter what happens.
Well, I mean, listen, both guys could get hurt. It's happened before.
That
put that onto the universe, but
you're right. Okay, that's true.
Hey, listen, I'm doing my best Mike Dickinson impression by being a
wet blanket there.
yeah, exactly. So finally, Jonathan Taylor's starting to get respect on his name, and he goes right after Drake London pretty consistently in drafts. I feel like this is kind of right where he should be. Right around the top of round 2. And I'm totally comfortable. Like if you go and say get like an AJ Brown or a Garrett Wilson in round 1, and you knowing that it's a long way before you pick again in round 3, like I'm totally comfortable getting Jonathan Taylor. Like we all are expecting an improvement in Anthony Richardson. And I would say Brandon, this is probably like that he's your favorite quarterback to target this year, right? At ADP,
100%.
At upside is Anthony Richardson. I have Michael Pittman juiced right up. As far as I'm concerned, he should be right in the conversation with Chris Olave, Devontae Adams, Nico Collins, like that group of wide receiver in round 2.
Absolutely
so flat, correct. But he's going full down later.
Correct. Yep.
So like we know that we expect the volume to uptick similar to what he was doing with Gardner Minshew last year, but Jonathan Taylor's still going to get so much action. You're basically just buying those touches. And in fantasy football, like again, masterclass, let's simplify things. You want running backs that are explosive. You want running backs that are going to catch the ball. And you want running backs that are going to get a lot of touches. Jonathan Taylor checks all 3 of those boxes.
I would say one is a questionable box. Is A. Rich going to check it down to JT? Because if I'm A. Rich, I'm going to just run, because every time I run it, it's about 10, it's going to end up being almost a first down anyways with him. So I think that's the only, and also the TD upside with A. Rich could eat into JT's value. So I think in my eyes, it limits him a little bit, similar to a Saquon Barkley. But I have no problem. Like JT's going to be so efficient and explosive in that scheme with A. Rich. I think he's going to be just fine at ADP here.
Well,
the year that Miles Sanders played in this offense when Steichen was in Philly in 2022. Steichen is a Nick Sirianni disciple. He's come out of that offense. And when you look at the way that they've constructed the offense, he's constructed it to be what Sirianni put together in Philly in 2022. From a physicality standpoint, Michael Pittman and A.J. Brown are very, very similar. So you look at Michael Pittman and A.J. Brown were within 2 targets of each other last year. So that's an easy A to B, like right there to right there. So when you're looking at range of outcomes for Michael Pittman, it's AJ motherfucking Brown. Like that's where he
Yes.
could be. He could be a mid to low tier wide receiver 1 if everything breaks his way. When you're looking at how they're piecing out their wide receiver 2, we've talked about this a little bit. And I don't know when we're going to talk about it. AD Mitchell. They want AD Mitchell to play in the Devonta Smith role. He's not big enough. He's not sturdy enough to be a standalone 1 on his own. So if you had AD Mitchell and Josh Downs, the offense falls apart. We saw it fall apart when Devonta Smith was miscast as the 1A. Now with Devonta Smith as the 1B, AD Mitchell's in there. Where it kind of gets interesting is with a running back. So in 2022, when Miles Sanders was the full-time running back, played 17 games, Miles Sanders ran for almost 1,300 yards, and he had 11 touchdowns on the ground, 5 yards per carry behind that offensive line. Where he fell short was in the passing game. He only hit 26 targets, but he was not their passing down back. Kenny Gainwell and Scott were their 2 passing down backs. So if all of that passing down work consolidates back behind Jonathan Taylor, what you're afraid of is is Richardson taking the rushing touchdowns, getting down close to the goal line. Now in 2022, Jalen Hurts had 13 rushing touchdowns, so he still got his. So Anthony Richardson can bogart some of those touchdowns, and JT can still be productive. Where you lose it is the Kenny Gainwells and the Boston Scotts that are just taking all this garbage work that just pisses you off as a Miles Sanders owner was in 2022. That work is all consolidated behind JT, and honestly, there's nobody. If you take him in the first round, at this point, I don't know who you would take as his cuff and if his handcuff is even viable. When Zach Moss was there, it was now that Zach Moss is gone, he doesn't have one.
Yeah, it's all JT and Anthony Richardson for rushing production for the Colts, and it's gonna be phenomenal. Like that's the RB2, Mike. It's Anthony freaking Richardson. That's the RB2. Yeah. So I think he's gonna get 10 designed runs a game, and he should get it. And if he gets that, last year he was averaging just with rushing production over almost 10 points a game, just shy of it. It was like 9.8 points per game on the ground. He was averaging. With just averaging that, all he needs to do is throw for like 200 and a touchdown for average, and he's still going to be a top 5 quarterback in fantasy. That's just it's just how the numbers bear out when you got a running back like A Rich as a quarterback. Like it's a cheat code, and he's a cheat code. That's why he's my most highly owned player across the board, and Pittman is my most highly owned wide receiver along with him. So
I think too,
I love that stack.
What bodes well is the fact that the AFC South went from like one of the worst divisions in the league, 2 years ago, to now they're one of the best divisions in the league, right? Especially if guys like Tila are actually going to take a step forward, like we're predicting, at least I'm predicting this year, that he's going to continue to develop and maybe not quite hit that ceiling that we thought he could be when he was drafted, but certainly become a very competent quarterback. So they're going to have to put up points. And that's what you love to see. You want to be in a shootout division. Like, as much as we love the NFC North, they're a ground and pound type division. It gets cold in the wintertime and points can become scarce, right? So that's why I'm still reluctant. Like, that's why Amari Cooper is eternally undervalued, because he plays in the freaking NFC North. So
my favorite wide receiver 3, my favorite.
Oh no, don't get me wrong. This is a pro Amari Cooper show, but ultimately, like, the draft community hates the guy, which is pretty wild. So then another player that I have, I'd say somewhat below the ADP. I've got him about 3 spots behind ADP, which in round 2, that's a pretty large margin. It's Marvin Harrison Jr. He's getting all the buzz from Kyler Murray that he is him, that he's everything that we expect him to be. But I'm far more comfortable taking a player like a Jonathan Taylor, like a Drake London, like a Jahmyr Gibbs ahead of a Marvin Harrison. And those are the types of decisions you have to make. Brandon, I think we kind of know where you are on him. I think you're in agreement with me that it's a little bit risky. Are you there with us, Mike? Like, Marvin's going too early, right? We're basically drafting at his peak potential. Yeah,
I'd be more comfortable with him in the middle to the end of round 2. I think that's probably where he should go. I know, Brandon, when he was going wide receiver 8, you were uncomfortable with him there. And this show, we love Marvin Harrison.
We do, which is crazy to say,
Yeah, but it's just a little too early. I mean, he's going ahead of guys like Devontae Adams, which is which is kind of wild considering what Devontae Adams did and what that OC looks like out there. I mean, that Luke Getsy had DJ Moore as a wide receiver 6 with Justin Fields as his quarterback. I think it's safe to say that Devontae Adams is going to get better quarterback play than DJ Moore got last year. So I think that, I think we're undervaluing Adams. We don't know what we're going to get out of Harrison and that offense, to be honest. I mean, we think we know what we're going to get. And if we get 85% of what we think we're going to get, it's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a phenomenal career for Harrison. But at this point, like, you don't want to mess up your team in those first 2 rounds. Like, you want to avoid those landmines. And Harrison could be a landmine. He could not be, but I don't know. We don't know. There's too much uncertainty surrounding it.
It's exactly what Shane was saying. It's just where you have to take him to get him. Mm-hmm. It's just like you're taking him at where his peak is and the peak outcome. I'm all in on Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray is going to return. He has every opportunity to return to a top 5 status, and he has that because of Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride. If it's me, I would rather stack Kyler Murray with Trey McBride, fade Harrison here, and I would probably take Devon Achane over Marvin Harrison Jr., Chris Olave, Devontae Adams, Nico Collins, and Barkley. I would rather just take the nuclear upside option kind of guy versus, a rookie that I got to depend on that I don't know is going to get all the production that we think he's going to get here. And then you're going to tell me, AOC out in Las Vegas, I don't know, might not be able to get it done. Minshew's good enough, I think. So it might be okay. So I don't know. I want upside guys in. If I'm going to swing for the fences and on talent, I'm going to go with Achane right here. This is where I have him in my rankings, but I know it's a little rich for Shane's blood and definitely for Mike. But I think Achane, with his potential upside, I think this is where I'm gambling to take him.
Well, let's talk about that for a sec, because I want to get your opinion on this, Mike. I'll tell you where I've got him baked into my rankings here. So I got him right after Saquon Barkley. I have Saquon going right at the ADP at 19 overall, again, mid-round 2. I then have Devon Achane right after him. In the tier below, so I'm definitively taking Barkley over Achane, which I know, Brandon, you don't always agree with, but you might have him in a similar tier. I'm a tier down with Barkley because of the usage, the reliability, the consistency year over year. Those things matter to me.
Sure.
That's why I have Saquon where I have him. But I've got Devon Achane at pick 20 overall, which is 3 spots ahead of his ADP. And I mean, I joined two slow drafts, but we're through a couple rounds already, and Achane's already going earlier and earlier, in every draft. So I think that probably mid-round 2 is probably where he's going to settle in as draft season gets off hot and heavy here. How do you feel about that, Mike? Especially considering a guy like Kyron's going almost half a round later. And listen, there's some
should be. That's the thing too.
He should be. Yeah. Well, yeah, he probably should be, right? But he
shouldn't be. That's what I'm saying.
You think Kyron should be higher, Brandon?
A lot higher. I think a lot higher. I think the market's too slow on him, and the market's too slow on Achane with what they both can, their upside potential be on a points per game basis. I think their efficiency was ridiculous last year, and they could use help. I don't mind the help.
Yeah, and Mike, I do want to get your take, but I just want to get this last point in. I think partially, though, and this is kind of the thing that I'm trying to weigh, is that when you're just doing a blind ranking, and this is something that's really important for everybody to listen to, especially if you're going to be doing our draft kits. I've got iteration 1, which is essentially 1 to 200 in terms of my rankings. In future iterations, I get more granular in terms of tiers, cross-positional tier drafting. I basically build my auction sheets, and based on that, that's the sheet that I use in all my drafts, because it evaluates tiers and it tells you which players cross-positionally are within tiers. But we're not quite there yet. If you're just looking at pure rankings, if you're going to say draft a Saquon Barkley or Devon Achane in mid-round 2, in round 1, in that same ADP range, you're going to be drafting Breece Hall and Bijan Robinson. So what I think naturally happens, Brandon, is people who are taking the running backs in mid-round 1 are not comfortable taking a running back, going boom, boom, running back, because you find the thirst for a wide receiver it's heavy, baby. They want wide receivers. So if you don't take a wide receiver in round 2, then you're going to be behind, which is why we're seeing some of those running backs fall just a little bit in round 2, more so from a game theory team build type perspective versus pure ADP, pure best player available. But Mike, I've talked too much. I need to know the Mike Dickinson take on Devon Achane this year.
Let's go. Yeah, I want to hear.
Let's go.
Sure.
So we all saw the clips where Mike McDaniels is saying we need to get the ball in his hands more. We all saw that. And there's 2 different ways that you can take that. The way that the optimist takes it, the Brandon Adams of the world take it, is he's coming in with 15, 18, 21, 22 touches a game. We're going to take that efficiency that he had last year and we're going to run it up. The way that I tend to look at that is we're going to keep him in the 12 to 14 touch range. His points per touch last year were through the roof. So baking in regression on points per touch, like he's not going to be otherworldly again. He can regress 10% and still be at the top in fantasy points per touch. If you give him 12 to 14, 15 touches per game in that offense with the way that McDaniels creates space, and he plays 15 games this year, you don't put the workload on him. He delivers across the season. Where we've seen Miami fall short is at the end of the season. They start off hot and heavy. They hang 70 on the Broncos. They embarrass them. They make them look like they're playing a fucking Division III scrimmage. And then they come back and they fall short at the end of the season. So believe it or not, I think McDaniels is coaching for his job this year. Like, that owner has given him every single thing he has asked for. I want Tyreek Hill. Give me Tyreek Hill. Got him. They got Jalen Waddle. They got Devon Achane. They got Raheem Mostert. They let Christian Wilkinson go, the heart of their defense, so that they could spend $28 million on Jonnu Smith. Like, this guy has gotten everything that he's wanted. He's coaching for his job. And I think that as crazy as he is, he understands that, you have these 3 receivers, you have the speed, you have this phenomenal run game, and then you have this kind of this weapon you can pull out at these opportune moments. So if you deploy that more often than not, defenses are going to get up on it. And the more you open him up, the more likely it is that something's going to happen. We saw him get dinged up last year. I know he's put on weight this year. I worry about that offensive line. The one thing I'll say about Achane, though, is that he was near the top of the league in yards before contact and yards after contact. So with a regressing offensive line, he can still be in the like 1.3 to 1.35 fantasy points per touch. But I think what you need to do to have him be viable all 15 of the 17 games is to get him out there 12 to 14, 15 touches per game. Like Odell Beckham Jr. is in it. OBJ is in that offense. River Craycraft is still there. Braxton Berrios is still there. Like, there's all these offensive weapons that are still there. They don't have the vacated targets. So like, where are they pulling from?
Okay. So here we go. So Achane averaged 16.5 PPR points per game last year on only a 28% snap share. Okay. A 28% snap share, 23% rush attempt share for the team, only ran 28% of the routes, and only had a 7% target share. His targets per route run, though, was right there with a Breece Hall, with a Jahmyr Gibbs at 26%. So if he just goes to Jahmyr Gibbs levels of usage from 28% to 49%, you're going to be getting this guy at you're getting him at the floor right now. He is going to be just as efficient as last year, because the scheme is designed to get these kind of guys moving that can run a 4-3 through the hole and hit seams and be able to hit home runs. And he's able to do that. Yeah, but when Devon Achane is literally converting a first down on 30% of his touches, you are going to get this guy more touches. 28% is ridiculous to think that it's not going to go up. He's going to move into almost easily at least 40%, easily. And if we're talking about an older Mostert, I don't care how many touches the guy has had, the guy is still in his 30s. If he has any time off Devon Achane can explode. If anybody within that offense has any time off, Devon Achane could explode because they're going to end up needing him. I think on a points per game value, there is no better value in the draft right now than Devon Achane. And honestly, Kyron Williams is getting pretty close to being that guy too. We can go into that, but I value Devon Achane at the same exact as I value Jahmyr Gibbs. That I have them exactly the same. So I just think there is no way in hell this guy is not going to get 40% of the snaps this year at all, especially with what is coming out of everybody's mouths in Miami about this guy's workload and what their plans are to do. This guy is going to end up getting 6 to 7 targets a game. It seems like they want him to almost be, i.e., a wide receiver 3. Odell Beckham is already on the PUP list. Malik Washington is a 5'9" guy as well. So I think they could be almost interchangeable as a wide receiver 3, the similar type of talent and archetype as a wide receiver 3. You can throw Devon Achane in there, or you can go Malik Washington, whatever you want to do. But I believe it's crazy to me to think that he is not going to get an increased workload whenever he's healthy. I don't care if he misses 2-3 games. That is about roster construction and being able to plan for some injuries. But when you have a nuclear guy like a Devon Achane, that there is nothing that sets you apart like that, besides like a CMC, a Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson. Like, those are the type of talents we're talking about where Achane is right with this guy. I just don't understand it. I'm willing to take the bet, especially when you said where Achane is going, you're going to be taking Bijan and Breece. Screw it. Take Breece and Achane, follow back with Pittman, and go get A. Rich. I can find me wide receivers. You can't find me Breece Halls and Devon Achanes later down the board. I don't know. I just like the nuclear option of having that guy, and I think there's just too many outs for him to be successful. The only out that you got is injury factor. Yeah, I get it. It's football, but go get Jalen Wright. You'll have a replacement value, and you should be fine. But if you want to win some goddamn leagues, you got to take some risks. And I think this is the type of risk you got to take, especially when you're lining. Give me Achane over Marvin Harrison Jr. Give me Achane over Puka Nacua. Give me Achane over. He's right there next to JT. I have him right next to JT. Okay, so I just like having upside plays, and just I build rosters differently a little bit.
Okay, so I'm just gonna do the bear case here. Like, do you remember Kendre Miller? Or
Sure.
Sorry, no, not Kendre Miller. What the hell's his name? The old Miami guy.
Lamar Miller?
Let me out here. Lamar
Miller?
Yeah, Lamar Miller.
Everybody was saying, give the guy more touches, give the guy more touches, give the guy more touches. He's gonna produce. The coaching staff never freaking did it, and we were screaming. Give the guy more touches. And what happened? When he got more touches, he fell flat in his face. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen to Devon Achane, but there's going to be a sweet spot, Brandon. He's not getting 7 targets a game. I'm telling you right now. He is not.
It happened with Tony fucking Pollard last year.
It did not. He was healthy all year. He played 17 games. Your injury list.
He was RB10 with Ezekiel Elliott. He was
your injury narrative is completely wrong. Yeah, he came off a broken leg. We were wrong in assuming that a guy can come off a tib-fib break and be able to do it. He was not. We were wrong on that.
I wasn't wrong.
We were wrong.
Unfriend you. That's not how it works.
You took Nick Chubb. What's the difference? He was 220. What's the difference? At least Achane had more games than Nick Chubb. I mean, that's what, like, when you're trying to predict injuries, it's ridiculous. What I'm predicting is that on a points per game stat line, Devon Achane is going to outproduce 95% of the NFL, period.
You know who outproduced Devon Achane on a points per game basis last year? Alvin Kamara. Guess who's going 2 rounds behind him? Alvin Kamara. When Achane,
but he's 28. He's 29.
When Achane puts up 25% of his points in one game and drops a 1.3, 5.3s, that fucking craters you, dude. If he's your RB1, that craters you. It
We
does.
are going to clip the shit out of this episode this year. I am so excited for this year. Let's move on before I have a complete meltdown. Let's just move on a little bit.
Two comments. My favorite Brandon is Tilted Brandon, first of all. And the second thing is the greatest ability a football player can have is availability. So
sure,
I will say reports are he's put on a little bit of weight, which is a good thing, right? For those of you who don't know, Devon Achane was a multi-sport athlete. He played track and field athlete in university college. And now that he's a pure football player, he's putting on weight to withstand a full football season. Track record shows he got hurt when he got too many touches. That game where he put up the near 50 points, he had 18 rush attempts. So can he do it with volume, and can he be effective with that volume? Yes, but it does open up risks that he's going to get injured. And I think just to Mike's point, which we lost Mike again, the challenge and this is a risk that I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, Brandon. This is just for the people, right? Because that's ultimately why we're here. As a fantasy football player, you have to weigh the risk of, are you comfortable spending a high round 2 pick, mid-round 2 pick on a player that has likely, I'm not a doctor, but likely a higher probability of getting hurt, just the style he plays, the speed of the game, versus a more secure type player, maybe not as sexy, but more secure in a Saquon Barkley, in a
Nico Collins,
a Nico Collins type player. Like that's ultimately what we're weighing here. So I love it. I knew that would create controversy, and so listen. So Mike, let's just say you're drafting and Devon Achane is falling in drafts. Where are you comfortable taking him if you're picking him in a draft?
So this went around in the group chat, and like scenarios where I would take him. So say I'm picking 1 or 2 overall. If I'm 1 or 2 overall, I'm probably not taking CMC. If we're being honest, I'm probably going to take either Tyreek or CeeDee Lamb. So
bang, love that.
So say I take CeeDee Lamb at 102, and I'm sitting here on the back end, and I see these guys kind of falling. Actually, it'd probably have to be a 101. So say at 101, and when it comes back around to me, Derrick Henry's still sitting there, and Devon Achane is still sitting there. I'm hammering those two, boom, boom, right on the turn. So then I'm starting CeeDee Lamb as my wide receiver 1, Derrick Henry as my RB1, Devon Achane as my RB2. I love that. Like, that's a phenomenal build, because then you just hammer now 4 straight rounds of wide receiver, maybe throw a tight end in there if they drop. And like, I'll go to war with that. What I'm not comfortable with in Achane, and with him creeping up, is having to take him as a running back. I don't love him as an RB1, but like, if I think I'm in a slick room and I want to be ballsy, I might be ballsy and go JT at like 108, and then come back around in the second and take Achane right there. And then because what that'll do is then that will send the rest of the room into a frenzy for running backs. They'll gobble up running backs, and then you hope that some wide receiver value drops to you right there. Like, if I'm going to do an RB heavy build, I want Achane as my RB2. This is redraft. This isn't best ball. Best ball is a completely different story. We're talking redraft lineup.
We're talking redraft here.
Yeah. I'm just saying this, like with Achane, the only thing you got to do is just buy the insurance. Jalen Wright ADP is 157. If you have to jump a round to get replacement value while Achane is out for, let's say he misses 6 weeks, whatever, nuclear or something happens, he misses 6 weeks. Jalen Wright is lighting up camp and is running long ones into the end zone, just like the rest of them. It is about the fucking scheme and the way they use the backs in Miami, and just get 2 of the 3. If you're going to get Mostert, get Jalen too. Like, get 2 of the 3. Just get the insurance, because what you want is the production and just the coaching staff. I could care less. It's Devon Achane. I just love the fact that we got a OC that understands that we got something special, and Achane, he works special things out for him. So I just feel like, I take big swings with points per game stallions. And I think if you prepare correctly and build correctly and get a little bit of insurance, you can sleep tight every time.
Yeah, that team's attract me. Jalen Wright's his 40 in the draft process was a 4.38. For the people who are new and aren't too familiar with him, his best comparable player is Miles Sanders. So that's the type of player that he is. Let's pretend. Remember when we thought Miles Sanders was good, and he was early in his career. That's the type of player Jalen Wright could be.
I liked him. Didn't. Well, no, that's not me, buddy.
He was okay. Okay, fine. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on, boys.
I couldn't let that slide. There's no way you're putting that on me.
Okay, fair enough. Back when we thought he was kind of good, except for Brandon.
No.
You brought up Derrick Henry, Mike. And
there you go.
He's going mid to early round 3, which is the latest we've seen him go pretty much his entire career as a starter. What the hell's going on? Why is there so much hate for Derrick Henry? Is it just the age?
I don't know that it's hate for Derrick Henry as much as people are excited to draft other younger players. Like we're having this conversation about Devon Achane at the mid-second round. Like,
right.
When you walk up old school, smack Derrick Henry right on the draft board. Nobody's going like, "Oh god damn, look at that pick! It's so fucking
exactly
sexy."
right,
like,
so sexy.
Nobody's doing that. But like, if you go up and you slack, Jahmyr Gibbs, Devon Achane, they'll be like, "Oh, look at that! He knows what he's doing.
That.
He's
spicy."
Stud. Like, yeah, like that's spicy. Like, Derrick Henry. I like Derrick. Like, I want guaranteed production. I know what I'm going to get. Like Derrick Henry's right in my wheelhouse, man. Like if I'm kind of in the back end and if I'm in the back end of round 1 and I kind of get bumped out of the if I get bumped out of like Breece Hall, Bijan, Gibbs, JT, as an Eagles fan, I'm a little off Saquon this year. I think that we're looking. I think, and we can talk about this later. I think Saquon's going to have a year like Zeke had the last year that Kellen Moore was in Dallas. And there's been some talk coming out of Eagles camp that Mike Yeager's guy Will Shipley from Clemson is going to kind of fit that Tony Pollard pass catching role. Like they're built physically similarly. He's been getting goal line work with the ones. He's a really good pass catcher. So I'm excited from an NFL standpoint about Saquon. So so if I'm taking one of these late round 1 receivers, like if I'm taking AJ Brown or if I'm going to take Garrett Wilson or Drake London, I feel great about grabbing Derrick Henry early round 2 as my RB1 because he's in the most rush heavy offense in the entire NFL. He's a stud. We've been praying for this for the last decade. Get him to Baltimore in this offense because they run. And I'm not worried about Lamar Jackson. Like we saw J.K. Dobbins, we saw Gus freaking Edwards, we saw Keaton Mitchell produce as running backs in this offense. So why the hell wouldn't Derrick Henry produce in this offense? It's asinine that he's going where he is.
Yeah, I'm moving up in the rankings. I'm already sold. I got him too low in my rankings. He's got to go up.
If he ends up leading the NFL and rushing touchdowns, it's gonna hurt me for sure. I've had every opportunity to take Derrick Henry, and I haven't. And you're exactly
boring,
right.
Though. Like he's boring.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't catch passes, right? So like
he doesn't.
I don't think he's got like RB1 overall in his range of outcomes. Like Devon Achane in theory could, right? But if you close your eyes and look at the end of the year, just total fantasy points scored, Derrick Henry could outscore Devon Achane, right? Very easily, just because
could
get 13, 14 touchdowns, 1,300 rush yards. Like it could absolutely happen.
Achane misses half the year.
Achane misses half the year. Yeah, no shit, hey. Okay, so this is a player that I'm having a really hard time ranking, and I have him currently below ADP because I think there's just that sex appeal for these rookies. But this is a player that I have after these players, okay? So I got Devonta Smith, DK Metcalf, DJ Moore, Cooper Kupp, then Malik Neighbors. So 3 spots beneath the ADP is Malik Neighbors because I'm more comfortable with those other wide receivers ahead of him. Tell me a player that I just listed off that you would be more comfortable drafting Malik Neighbors versus that player, Brandon.
Oh, Neighbors over DK, okay. 100% now.
Neighbors over DK. What about Devonta Smith?
Over Devontae Smith, 100%.
What about DJ Moore?
No.
Cooper Kupp.
No.
For the record, I have this is literally a tier for me. I have all these guys in a tier, but I have it ranked just based off production. I have it ranked Smith, Metcalf, Moore, Kupp, Neighbors. That's how I have it ranked. Again, the way that I work it, ladies and gentlemen, I do tiers, which means if you are comfortable with any one of those players in that tier, I'm giving you permission to draft that player in that tier. Because again, the thing about this like rankings, and this is what, don't be a slave to rankings because you have one pick per round. So you've got to make your choice. So if you prefer a player in a tier, that's the player you have to go after. But my question is, my God, does Malik Neighbors look like a god right now? He's everything we thought he could be. He's everything that we thought we hoped he would be. The question is, do we trust Daniel Jones? And really, that's the biggest thing holding me back. Can he get him the ball? And not 100% confident right now. Mike, do you have a take one way or another as an Eagles fan, unbiased?
Well, the Giants suck, but I think the bigger question is though, do the Giants trust Daniel Jones? And I think the resounding answer to that is, maybe. Like if you've been watching, it's interesting that they did the Hard Knocks offseason. I don't know if you've been following that at all. Like they made very, very concerted efforts to trade up into the draft so that they could draft a Jaden Daniels. Like they knew they had no shot at Caleb Williams, but like they legitimately wanted a Jaden Daniels or a Drake May. And they thought it looks like they thought, I haven't gotten to the draft episode yet, but it looks like they're thinking long and hard about taking JJ McCarthy at 6. So like, I don't think that they fully trust Daniel Jones. And, part of what makes Daniel Jones special as well, viable as a fantasy option, is his ability to scramble. He's coming off an ACL. It was a mid-season ACL. It wasn't like he did it week 1. He did it in like October, end of October, I believe. So he's going to be 10 months removed when the season kicks off. So he's still not back up to 100%. We saw what happened with Kyler Murray last year. He came back after 8-10 weeks and he still wasn't, it took him 3-4 weeks to ramp up. So I'm not 100% sold on the fact that Daniel Jones is going to be the Daniel Jones that we remember. On top of that, Brandon's back with a full beer. I love it. On top of that, I don't know that Daniel Jones is actually that good as a straight up pocket passer. I'm not convinced that we're not going to see Drew Lock in week 5 or 6 take that team over. So, and at that point, does Drew Lock give you a better shot at being successful with Malik Neighbors than Daniel Jones does? I don't know. This isn't a Malik Neighbors indictment. This is a Daniel Jones Drew Lock indictment. Like I don't love either one of those guys. And I feel bad because Malik Neighbors is a dog. Like I think from a dynasty standpoint, he deserved to go in the big 3 where he went with Harrison and Rome. Like they were the cream of the crop in this year's class. But I mean, you saw how he looked on draft day when he got picked there. Like he's competing in camp and he's going up against these corners, but like I just don't feel great about that offense.
Do you think that Brian Daboll's on the hot seat right now? He's got to be, right?
I don't think
do
so.
You think
I think they're
okay.
No,
I think they're in.
Yeah, I think that if it doesn't work this year with Jones, they're going to make every effort to go out and get Daboll whatever quarterback he wants.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because
he wanted Tyrod Taylor back. He wanted them to re-sign Tyrod Taylor because he can run the same system with Taylor as you run with Jones. But Taylor jumped ship and went to the Jets.
All right, I'm going to talk about this real quick. I just tweeted literally right before the show started. I've been keeping up quite a bit with Tracy, Theo Johnson, a lot of our guys that we've been liking late in drafts, and in every single highlight I see of these players, it's Daniel Jones throwing the football. I don't think Daniel Jones is going to skip any bit of – I think he's going to get all the snaps. I think he is every bit as good as Justin Fields. And I think if Justin Fields can make DJ Moore into a top 6 wide receiver, Daniel Jones can get Neighbors into a top 12 area if they give him enough targets. I think we're going to see a lot of targets going towards Neighbors, and as they should. I would be shocked if they don't get this kid at least 130, 140 targets a year this year and ride this guy as much as they can. I think Daniel Jones is looking decent in camp. He's moving around all right. I think he's placing the ball pretty good. I think Neighbors is going to give this kid a little bit of confidence that he hasn't had anybody to throw to. So I don't know. I think Daniel Jones he's been in this scheme for what, 2 years now with Dayball, right? This is his
third year.
Second.
Third year.
Third year of Dayball.
Third year. So this is third year, maybe. I don't know. Whenever Dayball showed up. But I just feel like with explosive athletes, the Giants got better. I mean, Theo Johnson, freak show, 6'6", 260, runs a 4.4, just he looks ridiculous out there when he's running routes and when he gets the ball. It's going to be very hard to tackle this guy. I know that it was identified by Mike and Shane very early in the process with Theo Johnson as a freak show. He is living up to that billing 100%. Tyrone Tracy,
year 3, by the way. We're going into year 3.
Tyrone Tracy is a freak size weight athlete as well. And he is going to help the athleticism, overall athleticism jump as well. And then with Neighbors on top of it, I'm telling you, we all might be a little bit low on the Giants. I kind of like what they're doing quietly. Let's see. But I think Neighbors is going to get every opportunity to push into that easily into the top 15. I think he could get right there.
Hey, Brandon, don't forget Motor Singletary.
Yep, Motor Singletary. That's another one. Yeah, like you're right, Motor. I mean, we're big Tracy guys. We need Tracy to have. We like Tracy. So Devin Singletary having a nickname really kind of irks me a little bit. But as a Tracy owner, I know this guy's a freak show athlete. So I think he's going to end up flashing, and he's going to get some pass options, and he'll flourish at the end of the year, like most rookies do like him. So I'm excited, but I don't know. I think Daniel Jones is finally going to get a little bit of explosive athletes around him, and hopefully he's able to stay healthy.
There was a drumbeat that Daniel Jones isn't terrible. I wouldn't say there's people saying he's going to be great, but I think there was a drumbeat that he's going to be a competent NFL quarterback that can put up fantasy points and support a wide receiver or pass catching supporting cast. Last year he got hurt, and it didn't look good last year. But to your point to start, Mike, like he's never had a wide receiver like Malik Neighbors. So, I mean, it's kind of do or die season for Daniel Jones. We talked about Brian Daboll being on the hot seat. Daniel Jones is definitively on the hot seat. So this is the year, and for the record, Drew Lock is not better than Daniel Jones. I stand by that. The only reason he is going to play is if DJ gets hurt. So I'm not too worried about that. But it's an interesting conversation because, like, we're talking about round 3 right now, and it's still a premium pick. Round 2 is kind of funny because other than, like, you know, there's the high upset with the running backs, but again, going back to the wide receiver thirst, round 2 is very flat. But there's a lot of really fun players and boring ones like Derrick Henry, but a lot of fun players in round 3 to really build your team around. But round 4 is when it gets interesting because guess what? Round 4 is when the tight ends and the quarterbacks come to the show. And as much as I typically have never been a draft tight end early type player, that's just not really how I like to build my teams. Sam Laporta as a tight end one going right at the start of round 4. I kind of like that. Where are you at on that, boys? Brandon, I'll go to you first.
Go ahead, Mike. No, go ahead, Mike.
Mike, you
just real quick. In the last week on ESPN, Sleeper, and RT Sports in PPR leagues, Malik Neighbors is going at pick 52 as wide receiver 24. So he's dropped into the 5th round in the last week.
I don't trust those ADPs, man. Like,
yeah, that's a bad ADP.
There's just not enough drafts. I don't trust those right now. That's why, like, when I'm building my draft rankings right now, I'm looking at like the high stakes leagues where there's like the NFFC has over 300 drafts in the books right now. So like those are trusted ADPs. Those are high stakes drafts. Underdog, different strategy. It's best ball, but it's real money at stake, right? So these like these fugazi.
You ain't getting Neighbors at 50. Trust me, that's not happening.
No, it ain't gonna happen. But it's a good try, Mike. We'll give you that one. We'll give you one of those.
I report the information.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, got you.
Yeah, FFPC. He's going 40, so he's like early.
That's reasonable. Yeah, that's I mean
Yeah.
that if that happens, like that's still solid. And
That's
what's
still
kinda
such
interesting
good
here, right?
value.
Like as more and this is a really good I think thing to mention as well, right? As more quote casual fans, aka the non-sickos like the three of us, start to do their drafts, you're going to see a few things happen. You're going to see more running backs move up in ADP because people like to have that running back on their team and they're just more comfortable. They have to fill out their starting roster. You're going to see more tight ends drafted and you're going to see more quarterbacks drafted early, right? Like these are the people who are going to be taking Patrick Mahomes in round 1. Like that's the type of player that's going to affect these ADPs. So as much as we're giving you shit right now, Mike, like there is something to the fact that when that happens and those players move up, the players that we like, those are the guys that are going to move down in the ADPs. But going back to my original question here, how comfortable are you guys going with the onesie positions, be it quarterback or tight end in round 4? Mike?
Knowing myself, I'm not super comfortable with it. I don't love it. I tried a couple different strategies last year. One of them was hero QB early. I took some Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts in like round 3. I didn't love the way those teams came out. It didn't really mesh with my in-season management style. I tried some zero RB stuff. That didn't really mesh with my in-season management style. I think the one exception I could make this year would be if I could get a stud tight end. So I'm talking like it would be a Laporta, a Kincaid, a Travis Kelce, a Kittle, or an Andrews somewhere before round 6. Like if for some reason Andrews would drop to me in round 6, I think I would jump on him there. If not, I've traditionally waited on tight end and I've done well streaming tight end. Like for some reason, people know running backs, they know wide receivers, they know a handful of good quarterbacks, and they just ignore tight ends. So, like, we were talking earlier about Jonnu Smith. You could get a Jonnu Smith. You can get a God forbid a Hayden Hurst. You could get a Dallas Goedert. Like, there's tight ends to be had in the double digit rounds, and I think you're fine. And if one of those doesn't work out, you dump it and you pick somebody else up. Like, there's only the onesie positions. You only need one of them. So like it's easy to stream at those.
Yeah.
And I don't like the way my builds come out, putting early draft capital into the onesie positions. That's a personal preference for me. Some people love it. I just don't.
Yeah, I think what's interesting too is that this year we're seeing like the 10-1 go later than it's ever gone. You're typically going to have a Beta Gronk or a Kelsey that's going to go in either round 1 or 2. So there's always going to be that high-end elite tight end. And as much as we have some high tiers, like Travis Kelce last year still had the 10-1 season in terms of points per game. It was a disappointment. It was a disappointing season. We all felt like, it was fine, I guess. But it was still Travis Kelce. So do we want to spend that high capital? And obviously, like the value of a pick in round 4 versus round 1 is significantly different. But I don't have a ton right now, but I find the sweet spot for me, like I like going after like the George Kittles. And I know Brandon, you don't love him, but like George Kittle at the end of round 6, Evan Ingram in round 7, even a Jake Ferguson, like at the 7-8 turn, like that's such a sweet spot in terms of your volume. As much as we love Sam Laporta, he was heavily touchdown dependent, and we know that is one of the least sticky statistics year over year in terms of scoring, right, for your fantasy points. So there's a little bit of risk there if you're going high end, but you also know that guess what, the Detroit Lions are probably going to be good this year. So maybe it's worth taking that shot on a player like that. But I tend to agree with you. A player that I'm targeting later, if we decide not to go high end, is I like Kyler Murray in round 7. Like that's a player I think that's great value. Dak Prescott is perpetually hated. He's going at 90 overall in round 8. Like those players are such steals to me that are you really getting a true difference maker in round 1, or excuse me, as like one of those top, like the quarterback 1 versus the quarterback 7 or 8. It just it's hard to really parse it out. Now there's a definitive teardrop, right? Like you basically have your rushing quarterbacks at the top, then you've got your mid-level guys like the CJ Strouds of the world, the Joe Burrows of the world, and then the tier down below that is Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott. So all these guys, again, end of the year, if we're talking a point or 2 per game on a weekly basis, or per week, excuse me, like that's not really going to win you a league. But if you get a tight end like a Kelsey in that same range, say you decide to go a onesie position, I'm probably more inclined to go the tight end in round 4 than I am the quarterback in round 4. And spoiler alert, I love Jalen Hurts. So yes, if I got Jalen Hurts on my team in round 4, I would be okay with it. But then I'm just less comfortable with my overall build.
You can get Brock Purdy in round 10.
Dude, I don't know.
Jordan Love.
Biased, but that's the one. I'm much more comfortable with Jordan Love than Brock Purdy. But no, if I'm going with that style of player, I'm going Dak Prescott. I'm going to pull the trigger on a Dak Prescott just because.
Yeah, makes sense.
Like guys going around Dak right now, it's like Tyler Lockett, Jameson Williams, Amir White, Jalen Warren, Curtis Samuel. Like yes, decent depth players, but like the difference maker that Dak Prescott can be on your team relative to those players. Like give me Dak all day, man.
But yeah, for sure. I think the only person that I would take high in that is Jalen Hurts if I had AJ Brown stack. That's it. Besides that, I'm not doing it. I'm not taking any tight end until Ingram or Fergie. There's no reason to, so it fits right into your Dak stack with Fergie. I believe Ferguson's the top 5 tight end this year. I think he's going to be a very I think touchdowns are going to be very helpful for him. He had a ridiculous amount of red zone looks. Every Mike McCarthy came out and said he's the most improved player into year 2. He's a dog. He's a leader. He's our guy. I think he's the second option overall in the offense, including Zeke and the run game. I think he is going to be a major focal point with CeeDee Lamb, and I think there's going to be ridiculous amounts of targets for him.
What about Kyle Pitts at the beginning of round 6?
Don't mind that. Don't mind some Pitts
either. I mean, let me ask you this, boys. If he doesn't do it again this year, like he's still a young man, right? All things being equal for the tight end position, he's still going to be a young man because he entered the league at such a young age. What if he falls flat in his face again this year and disappoints again this year? Are we going to go back to the well next year, or like is this kind of the do or die year for Kyle Pitts in terms of fantasy football?
He's David Njoku if he doesn't get it done this year, right?
Yeah.
So you hope for the year 6 breakout? Like we,
but he was. No, I mean, technically he did break out. As a rookie, he was 1,000 yard.
Sure.
Yeah.
He did get 1,000 yards. It's just the touchdowns weren't there. So I don't know. It's hard to say because he has broken out. So, but Kyle Pitts, that's interesting. That's a funny value. You're kind of right.
Per game last year, Brandon. He averaged 8 points per game last year. That's putrid. Yeah, he'll be 20. He'll be 23 still when the season starts. So like he's still a young man. And there's still lots of time. Like 27, 28 is when a lot of these players will break out. It's just facts, right?
That's why I'm fading Brock Bowers at all costs in redraft.
Oh, yeah.
You don't draft rookie tight ends. I don't care who they are. Just don't do it.
So in that system, TJ Hawkinson, once he got to that system, TJ Hawkinson lit it up last year.
Smashed.
I mean, he was a top 10 tight end most weeks. He was tight end 4, tight end 4, tight end 11, tight end 1, tight end 10, tight end 4. So like Pitts is in that McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Kevin O'Connell system. That's the offense that's in Atlanta. And this is why you need to understand what those offenses look like. And what these systems look like. So if you just look at it, you're like, oh, Kyle Pitts was great his rookie year. He's been terrible. But like the entire Falcons paid the Arthur Smith tax last year. Like every single one. As much as I was a Desmond Ridder fan, Desmond Ridder's not an NFL quarterback. He's a backup caliber NFL quarterback. I was wrong on that one big time. But like the entire offense paid the tax. He tried to make Jonnu Smith and Tyler Algier a thing just to prove he was smarter than everybody else. We get it. You're smarter than everybody else. Congratulations on your offensive coordinator position.
Why take Kyle Pitts? Don't take Kyle Pitts. Take the number 1 quarterback next year. It's Anthony Richardson for the same ADP. Like
you could, but you could. I mean, but if we're talking about taking one of those positions early, and if AR's still there at the beginning of round 6, definitely. But like, I don't know. Look at that system. Like George Kittle is a thing in that system. They've tried to make Tyler Higbee a thing in that system. He can't stay healthy. TJ Hawkinson was a thing in that system. So like, tight end is a thing in the Shanahan system.
Sure, I feel like this is going to be Bijan and Drake London. And then Kyle Pitts will have some monsters. I think he'll have some monsters.
Let's wrap her up because probably my internet seems to be kicking in here. But we're going to be here all season. Go check out dfsarmy.com, DFS Army. DraftKits.com. Check out all the content out there. We got the Draft Kit live. We're talking DFS way too early. We got the Draft Kits going live, and we're gonna get sick, man. We're just getting started. We're gonna make sure we're wrapping up all this content for the people.
So fun.
So it's just so much fun. It's just so much fun. So for Mike, for Brandon, I'm Flex Shane, and we are the DFS Army Fantasy Football Show. Go get some.
Every time, knowing that.